So they have like a 1-7, 1-6 chance.
Well, they better be. They haven't won anything.
Exactly. And
We've gone through a whole lockout, a whole collective bargaining agreement, and Toronto didn't even make the playoffs.
I know. To be fair, it wasn't a 10-year. I mean, the Leafs right now are on the cusp. And
say what you want.
I think if the lockout, I think if the CBA was 10 years, because it actually was 8 years, or no, it was just seven years. If it had gone 10 years, you may have seen a playoff appearance before the next CBA negotiations. That's just my opinion. But, anyways, the draft coming up, they need to decide how it's going to go. The benefit is the Leafs may draft McKinnon as a franchise player. The Leafs will be set for 20 years. I know there's lots of factors.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
I am. But I'm not saying this to be like a hopeful, like delusional Leaf fan. I'm saying this for Leaf fans to think that, we would have no chance to draft first overall normally. Like this season,
no, we have Tyler Seguin, but the pick was traded.
He was not first overall. He was second,
but we had the chance to pick first overall. We were in the lottery.
No. I'm not talking about chance. I'm talking about in the position to pick first overall. We haven't, and
not since Wendell Clark.
This is really tough for me to say, but we haven't sucked that bad. At least Edmonton Oilers suckage,
and they're gonna get rewarded 7-8 years down the road.
They will, but the funny thing is because Edmonton has drafted the players they have in the last few years. They're in this lottery coming up. They're dead last. They cannot. I think they have the same amount of a percentage of chance of drafting McKinnon as say like the Boston Bruins do, who won the Cup a couple of years ago, the LA Kings who won the Cup last year. And the reason is because they've drafted. If you draft first overall in I think more than 2 times in the last 5 years, you automatically get a ball taken away too. So Edmonton's not even in the 7 teams, which is funny because more than likely Edmonton would be at the bottom of the league if the season was to resume this year. Anyways, that's just my positive for at least a Leaf fan perspective.
Will there be a season?
I would love to say yes, but no. I think that by the time they finally get their act together, it'll be February. And if you know about last lockout, when February comes, they pull the plug.
They're done.
What about you?
I'll say yes.
I
think there was more. I think there's no progress. There's been more talks this lockout than there was last lockout. I mean, they went 2 months last.
You're wrong.
Last lockout without even talking. At least they're talking.
I can't agree with that. I'm sorry. This lockout has been awful.
Oh,
and I'm not.
It has been awful.
Like negotiation-wise, yes, they've been talking a lot more. But you can't tell me that.
I'm gonna say January 1st, the season starts. They figure something out.
All right.
They figure something out within the next 2 weeks.
Listen. What are you going to give me? What are you going to give me? No, seriously, I want to know. January 1st is not that long away.
It's a month away.
So okay, I'll tell you what.
Because if
you're wrong, you give me $100. Okay?
No, definitely not.
$100 Canadian.
That's easy money.
If it's easy money, why are you making the prediction then?
I'm trying to be bold.
Yeah, well, that's pretty bold. That's like losing money bold.
Literally, they need to get something done because if it doesn't happen by January 1st,
I don't think it's going to happen at all.
They're not going to start it in middle January. And like you said, February is going to come. They're going to axe the season.
They're axing it in February if they don't start in January. I guarantee it. Okay, so I guess since we're talking about hockey, we'll talk about a little about what happened with the Portland Winterhawks.
The Portland Winterhawks, if you didn't hear, were fined $200,000, forfeited 9 WHL draft picks, including first rounders for the next 5 years. The issue was they were paying for the flights of the players' families to come visit them. They were also paying for their captain's cell phone bill for the past 3 years.
Okay. I know that the management, so, I think they agree.
This is like recruitment issues. You know, when
I know,
you're not
and-
allowed to pay a guy, like you can't give him come to my university, come to my college, I'll give you a car. Do you know what I mean? Like it goes along the lines of that.
But do you agree? I don't. But do you agree that they should have been penalized that harshly?
You need to penalize them harsh so that it doesn't happen again.
Like,
not just to them, to anybody.
Like, those first rounders, I mean, that's brutal to lose all that. Never mind 200,000.
Well, they were talking about
200,000 is a
getting
lot for the WHL. It is.
Seth Jones to go to Portland. He's supposed to be the top defenseman. Popeye Jones's former NBA player, Popeye Jones' son. And
yeah, he's supposed to be. He's projected as first or second overall this year.
There's talk of him going to Portland, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen now. But no, they should be punished.
Yeah, but as severely as this I think this is overkill. Like, I know it's recruitment. Okay, you find them. Yeah, okay, fine.
But what are you going to do? Are you going to give them a slap on the wrist? Or are you going to say,
"What's a slap on the wrist? 5 first-round picks."
Good.
9 picks altogether, and you find them $200,000.
Good. So it doesn't happen again.
So okay,
it's
fine.
It's like the NFL. They when they suspended Sean Payton, New Orleans Saints coach, for a full year, and everyone said that's too harsh. You can't suspend the coach for the year. He's their head coach. He's their offensive mastermind. Well, you got to do something to set a precedent, and that's it. Don't do that.
They set a precedent, all right, because if that doesn't scare the crap out of every other team in that league, I don't know what will. Because that, in my opinion, is harsh.
It's harsh, but it needs to be done.
I mean, the money, fine. Yes, I would fine them. 200,000, it's still steep, but fine. I would agree to that. But like 9 picks altogether, 5 first-rounders, like no. For the next 5 years, like, that is ridiculous. What happened? Okay, what happens if they trade for like, they get a first-round pick from another team? They can't use that first-round pick?
Well, you can. I'm sure they can trade for a first-rounder. It just can't be their own.
I don't know. I don't
It's like
agree
the Devils when they were penalized for signing Ilya Kovalchuk.
That's different, though, because that was ridiculous. That contract was awful.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, I know they, I know that they should be punished, but I just feel it's too much. So, yeah, I can't.
This brings us to the Marlies, who have won 3 games in a row.
Who are getting fined.
If you didn't see, Nazem Kadri's been playing well. Stepped up his game. He had the overtime winner on, was it Saturday? At Rico?
Yes.
Yeah, where they won 3-2 over Rochester.
Yeah, that game was a good comeback win. Obviously, they won the night before in Rochester.
Rochester is the farm team of Buffalo.
Yes.
And Buffalo's always been known for having a good AHL team. They produced many AHL MVPs: Tyler Ennis, Nathan Gerby. So,
they've produced players, but the Marlies have won 12 of the last 14 meetings. The Marlies have dominated them, and one of the team concepts that Dallas Eakins wanted to implement this season, you can actually really see in the last 3 games, was the hatred for the he's preaching hatred for the division rivals. So like the Rochester Americans. The reason is, and Kadri actually attested to this as well after the game on Saturday, that they want to establish kind of like a tone. They want to set the tone for future meetings, not just in the AHL, but also in the NHL. Because, as you probably know, Buffalo has dominated Toronto in the NHL constantly. Like, there's no chance for the Leafs ever when they go into Buffalo.
It's tough to win in Buffalo.
It's always tough to win in Buffalo. But even when Buffalo comes to Toronto, it's tough to win in Toronto for the Leafs because Buffalo has always been just that good,
Ryan Miller is the guy who's had the Leafs number.
He's been the catalyst for that team having as much success as they had consecutively in games. So Dallas Eakins said, he was mentioning that. He was saying that we want our players to set the tone for not just the AHL but the NHL, because when they get into the NHL, they will know these players. Because by the time they get to the NHL, most of these players on Rochester will like Marcus Foligno, like he was all over the ice. He was starting fights with everyone, and he's a pest. He's a good player too, and Rochester they love him.
Well, if the Leafs can have their number in the AHL, hopefully when they all come up in the NHL,
and that's the point.
It stays that way.
Kadri is one of the three players that have had